You always want to give the audience a reason to stick around. You're not just going to hit it organically.
Nothing about this feels like a podcast.
Audio growth is very, very, very slow. Platforms just aren't really built for discoverability, no matter like how hard Spotify tries to be YouTube now. But YouTubers will figure out a topic based on like what they think actually explode. Then they work backwards. With podcasting, you kind of don't really do that. You experiment a little bit and suddenly you'll have an episode just like massive and brings in a ton of new people. Once you kind of get that success, then YouTube will continue to grow that for you. But a lot of it goes back to which is the most important part of the production process. I told our video editor, do not use any shots from my webcam.
How much extra does video actually add?
If I say nothing, then I'm lying to you.
Jackie is the executive producer of MoneyWise, a podcast that was already bringing in 150,000 monthly audio listeners. But then they took it even further by adding video. And what really impressed me, they didn't just turn on the camera and call it a day, making it look like any other Zoom call. She really thought about how to make this show feel native to YouTube. And that led to some serious growth, where one single video brought in more new people to the show than the whole audio podcast would in 3 or 4 months. And so in this conversation, we talk about how she pulled it off, how she thinks about YouTube, and what you can learn from it.
My role title is actually Head of Special Projects, which doesn't really say too much except for I get to do fun stuff. But I am an audio producer. I worked in radio for a while. I worked in journalism before transitioning into branded podcasting. And now I've been at Lower Street, which is a branded podcast agency, for a little over 3 years. And just doing lots of cool stuff there. Now working primarily on video podcasting.
And the big podcast that you've been kind of making a name for is MoneyWise.
Yes, yeah.
What's that about? What is your involvement into this whole project, actually?
Yeah, so Sam Parr has a community. He's the host of My First Million. He has a community called Hampton, and it's for high net worth founders. And they came to us and they wanted a podcast. Sam had an idea that he just wanted rich people to talk about their money openly. And we pitched him on an idea of like what that format would look like and how to actually make sure that it's still like a useful podcast. And it was audio first, like that was the idea. It was like super, super produced, narrated. The video wasn't it wasn't something that we were considering at the beginning when we started this. We did a pilot episode for him to see if he liked it and if the people who would end up listening to it would like it. So we said, if you want this, then you have to ask for more because we're only making one. And it went over very, very well. And so then we've just been making that since.
And from all I know is that most podcast growth is pretty flat or pretty, little by little, it gains a little bit of an audience. But with you being head of special projects, you made some changes recently to specifically the YouTube channel and really got some explosive growth on the podcast. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
For that, it's been the idea with MoneyWise is that we get to experiment a lot. Like that's part of the relationship. So we get to do some things that we maybe typically wouldn't for other clients. It's a really awesome relationship that we have with Hampton. And my role as head of special projects right now, the focus is trying to roll out and like discover all of the different opportunities and processes that we'll end up using for video podcasting. So we decided let's make MoneyWise a video podcast right now and see what happens. And yeah, you're right. Audio growth is very, very, very slow. It's really stable, which is awesome. Like the returning listeners are awesome. You build such a nice core community. But to grow it, it's kind of you have to put some extra effort into it. It doesn't just kind of grow naturally. Obviously, that's the nature of RSS. And the platforms just aren't really built for discoverability, no matter like how hard Spotify tries to be YouTube now. But with YouTube, we got to, you experiment a little bit, you change up some packaging, you maybe like do a little bit of a twist on a format or something, anything, or you just get lucky. And suddenly you'll have an episode that is just like massive and brings in a ton of new people in one day, like whereas the audio would bring the same amount of people in like 3 or 4 months, maybe even more. to make sure that like we've been able to grow on YouTube, we've also had to make sure that the video feels native to YouTube. So with that, I can talk about some of like the specific things that we've done, but there's like some techniques that we've changed and how we produce so that we are able to feel native on YouTube.
Yes, I would love to dig into this a little bit more, because if I'm not mistaken, the one video that really changed things on the channel is a video about flying private. And nothing about this feels like a podcast if I'm coming in as a complete stranger.
Yeah.
Once I'm in it, like the thumbnail, the packaging, even the opening of it, the intro feels like a native YouTube video. Once I'm in it, okay, it's a conversation with some interjections from you, and I can also consume it just as an audio experience. But from the beginning, it's just like, okay, this is a YouTube video and I'm here for it. What's the story behind this whole thing? And how has it really shaped the rest of the channel?
It's interesting that a lot of the formats when we test things out come from, we don't have a guest right now. Let's figure out what we can do instead. And that's how that one came about. But I think it starts with the fact that with YouTube, what YouTubers will do typically is they will figure out a topic that they want based on like what they think will resonate or what will actually explode. And then they work backwards and then they figure out, okay, what's the content of that video? With podcasting, you kind of don't really do that traditionally. It's let's find a guest, let's book that guest, we'll get them in, we'll figure out what their story is, and then we'll work around that. This one, I think part of the reason that it did so well immediately was because we decided on a topic based on the fact that we thought it was interesting and we thought that our listeners and other people would also find it interesting. So that's like the first thing. And then the second thing is the format. So it is like a little bit different. It's not an interview to the same extent. It's funny though, because it kind of is just a narrated interview.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like it as much because of the way it's positioned at the beginning. Just, the way that I position the video in the narration is that we're going to explore this, not this is our guest today. We do introduce the guest, but it feels like he's just adding to our research or whatnot. It really, really kind of was like he brought all the expertise. The intro thing is really interesting because that was also just, I was like, I want to make the intro interesting. When we interviewed Andrew Wilkinson, he told us this.
The big thing that I started doing that was expensive and silly was flying private. That's one of the only like rich people things that I think is actually worth the money.
Now, it may be because of the 2001 cinema classic Josie and the Pussycats, or maybe another piece of media that isn't only remembered by 30-year-old women. But when people think of flying private, they typically think of big, lavish, and expensive. I could talk more about this, but the first 30 seconds are like the most important thing for me for any YouTube video. And I've reimagined like how I write all the intros for every episode. But that one, I happened to be going to the airport the morning that I needed to record that episode. And I was like, oh, I'll just bring my camera and I'll record the intro there. That'll be fun. And I think that immediately sets it. Like, this isn't a podcast because it's not sitting in front of a desk or sitting in front of like in a studio. It felt more like in the world, which is typically how YouTube feels. And I think just because it started like that, it made it so like in people's brains, like that's the type of video that you're going to get, not like immediately looking at a camera and like you get this like whole, we're on a Zoom call thing. The other thing that I think also helped is when I did do the interview with the guest, I recorded. I had an angle of from my phone behind me, and then I had an angle of a camera like behind here. Like obviously you can't see. And then for the webcam, I told our video editor, I said, do not use any shots from my webcam because I didn't want it to make it. I didn't want it to look like it was a Zoom call. I wanted it to look like it was like more of a documentary style. And I think that also does it too, because I think that a lot of podcasts, when they try to go video, they just use the video from Riverside or something. Yeah. And that's great. But also it does look like you're talking on a Zoom call. And like, I don't really necessarily want to watch a Zoom call. And also there's the aspect of I'm staring at you right now, right? But what it looks like is that I'm staring at the person who's watching. And so when we're having a conversation and it doesn't look like we're looking at each other, it looks like we're staring down the person who's watching. I just think that's also just like a little unsettling. So I like the idea of when you're the host and you're standing in for the listener, I want to make it look like I'm standing in for the listener, where I'm listening to the person who I'm interviewing, not staring down the person while the other person talks. So those are just like a couple of the things. And I think that that's why it didn't feel like a podcast on YouTube.
Oh, that's a really interesting insight about the looking at the audience, because that is kind of the classic YouTube format of person talking at camera, talking to a person. But if it's a conversation, it's a different dynamic, right?
Yeah, it's like if you interview somebody in a studio, or even like you look at like just like classic radio interviews, it never looks like the radio host is like staring down the camera. It's like they're looking across the table and they're looking at the person that they're interviewing. I think like it's only now that we've like shifted to using Zoom and Riverside so much that people are staring down the camera. So yeah, I don't know. It's that idea too of like being stared down. I've like long thought like we need to do side angles because I don't want it to look like a Zoom call. But that idea I credit to the head of post-production at Lower Street, Alex. He said that to me. He said it looks like they're staring at me, and that stuck with me. So that one was him.
But it also brings up a point that a lot of people are concerned who are not video first, who maybe come from an audio perspective of like, oh my gosh, video is going to add all of this extra work and extra layer and complications. And I need, I don't know, fancy gear or whatever. How's it from your perspective? How much extra does video actually add to the production of a podcast?
If I say nothing, then I'm lying to you. I did buy a camera. I bought some lights. I have to like set things up a little bit more strategically now. It is a bit different. And then in the edit, like I said, I don't do the video edit either. We have video editors. So, but for them, like that's like a whole other step, right? Like that's a job that they wouldn't have had before. So it is more work. And it's like a little bit more money. But the way that I kind of talk about it is, if you want to do a podcast and you tell me I want to make a podcast that sounds professional and it's like really high quality and it looks like we put effort into this and it feels good, then you're not going to record directly into your MacBook microphone, right? We're going to say, okay, let's get you, we can do like a Shure MV7, or we can do like some more higher end, go Shure SM7B. We're going to get you an audio interface. We're going to get you some headphones. Like that's what you would do. To say that, okay, now I want video as well, but then be like, well, I'm just going to use my webcam. Like that's the same thing. Right. So it is going to cost a little bit more. It's going to be a bit more effort, but I think it's worth it if you actually want to do a video podcast, especially because video is like, I mean, YouTube is saturated as hell. It's saturated as hell. There's tons of stuff out there. So you want to stand out just a little bit. So yeah, it's more money and a little bit more effort, but not significant. And
do you have any thoughts or insights on how to stand out on YouTube as a video podcast?
I mean, yeah, I think the first thing is just not looking like a Zoom call. Like figure out ways to do that. And then also like you can get more creative with the way you record things. The thing is, it doesn't really matter how you record the video as long as the audio still sounds pretty good. So you can do kind of like anything you want. You don't have to be sitting in front of a computer. You could be sitting on your couch, like holding the microphone or something. And that's like pretty classic. You can go out into the world and record if it's relevant. And it's like, you know, for instance, if it's about planes and you go to an airport and there's a bunch of noise in the background of people rushing around, planes taking off, like that adds to the audio as well. I think that we get trapped in, it has to be like studio quality for the audio, but it doesn't actually. So there are like small things that you can do there that like creatively for the video that also add to the audio. But I would say like the main thing is just like, don't look like a Zoom call. Yeah.
And how much do you actually edit each conversation when it's just a guest interaction? Because there's also a big difference between audio and video, but like, I'm just curious how you think about editing when it comes to conversation-based formats.
Yeah, I think so. It depends on like how conversation, like how much we lean into the conversation style of the format. For MoneyWise, we do a thing where there's narration in between to kind of it's really for pacing. People think we're just interrupting for the sake of it, but it's so we can organize the story in a way that makes sense and also pace it nicely. But because of that, like I will be able to clip things around a lot more and pull sections into the places that I want. The difference, though, like on a granular level, for audio, I will get in there and I will make somebody's sentence sound like it was way more concise when they said it, right?
Yeah.
But you can't do that for video, which is like a blessing and a curse because it gives you far less control over how long somebody takes to say something. But it saves you a lot of time in the edit because you're like, well, I can't do it anyway, so I'll just like, let it be. So it's like it's slightly different, but actually in a way that saves you time.
That's where second angles and B-roll come in really handy.
Yes,
that
yes.
do allow you to make your guest more eloquent or more, less thinking pauses and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But that is, you also need those elements because otherwise it's just jump cut, and that's quite jarring.
Yeah.
In the webinar that I first discovered saw you, I don't know what the word is. You said something interesting about YouTube in specific, where you said it's about earning attention every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, I think it's more just like with audio, we kind of I think we get like lazy a little bit with just expecting that the audience is going to stick around. Like we trust the audience a lot because it is kind of passive.
Mm-hmm.
You put you put your headphones on, you go for a walk and you're kind of just like, you're listening while you walk. YouTube it requires more attention naturally because there's the video element as well. Like you can't sit and listen to a podcast and also play Sudoku or a crossword. I mean, you can do that with video too. I mean, I do it. We all do it. But it is just like, it demands a little bit more attention. And also it's on a platform where everything is like screaming for attention, right? There's the whole sidebar that's like all these other videos that are like trying to optimize and get you to click. And they're all like related too, because it's the algorithm.
Yes.
So you do have to work a lot harder to keep people around. Like you can't just like rely on the fact that they're going to be there. And this is why I also think that thinking about video makes you a better audio producer as well, because it makes you address things that you would otherwise just say, oh, it's okay though. It doesn't actually matter that much. Like really, I value my listeners' time and I don't want them to have to sit through something just because they're walking, so they're not going to change it. That might be like better if I paced it, 30 or 40 seconds faster or something and got to the point a little quicker. So there is like this element of as soon as I start to zone out, like if I'm editing, I'm going to cut it, and there's a thing I always say where the audience will never know what you cut.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's good practice to think about it from like a video perspective. So I also just like in terms of how to do it and like how I write, it's always there needs to be something that the audience is anticipating or a question that hasn't been answered yet at all stages. And if you answer a question, then you need to make sure that just before you answered that, you asked a new one, right? Like you always want to give the audience a reason to stick around. And that also like made me rethink about like how you end a story too, because there is always a drop-off point if you look at retention data for audio or video, and that's the point at which like the story actually is over.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really need any more information. There's the CTAs and there's the things that you want people to hear. And for audio, I like to keep that in. But for video, it's like, well, the story's over actually, so why would I continue it? And that's the point where the questions stop being asked. So then as soon as there's no more questions, like if I'm trying to force it in, then at that point it's like, okay, well, it's over now. But yeah, it's always just like, what will they be wanting to know that I haven't given them yet? And if there isn't something, then that means that I'm doing something wrong.
Is that something that you specifically do with those narration parts in between, or is it also something that comes in when you plan a conversation?
So actually, a lot of it goes back to the pre-interview, which is, in my opinion, like the most important part of the production process. And that's where I plan what I think the story is going to be and what I think the value is going to be and what I think all of the open loops will be. And then I would say it is in the narration sometimes that I'll just like specifically point to things that I think need to be an open loop or like I want to make very obvious. But I also like let things come up that are just context and within the conversation itself.
And when you anybody who started a podcast, or specifically a video podcast, I think has very soon comes across the advice of like, you got to make 100 shorts out of every conversation and clip it and like put everything everywhere. I think you run, or you have insights on not just one podcast, but like a portfolio of shows.
Yeah.
What is your take on this whole thing?
So what I think might like slightly contradict our strategy, like as a company as a whole, I shorts, and we tell people this in like the sales process too. Shorts don't really convert very well, right? Like those vertical videos that are like 30 to 60 seconds long, you're getting people in a place where the behavior is to pass on to the next thing and to get those like quick hits. So they like, I think it's pretty like common knowledge that it's very difficult to convert people to listeners through that. I don't think it's a fruitless effort. I think that there is value in it. And I think that that's still like a super valid strategy. And I was watching a podcast with the CEO of Dropout the other day. Yeah. And basically he said that all of the growth is by using that strategy of having shorts and then like sending people to the full episodes from there.
Interesting.
But I personally, I think that there are better ways to take advantage of YouTube as a video podcaster. And that's in my strategy right now that I'm really leaning into and that I'm pushing our clients to do is an episodette strategy where you have content that is a bit longer form. So 8 to 10 minutes ish. And it's like a full video on its own. Like it has a answered question in it that's very specific. And so it feels like a standalone content, but then also you're pushing people to the full audio version, whether that be a full audio video version on the YouTube or the full audio and like, wherever you get your podcasts, the classic. Because the behavior there is more, I'm here for like a longer form thing. Also, just because of YouTube, it gives you so many more opportunities to hit the jackpot with the algorithm, which is what you're constantly trying to do. Like I said, there's a lot you can do to try and give yourself the best odds possible, but it is a luck thing. So that's kind of how I see that strategy. I don't think that there is anything wrong with a short strategy. It's not my current focus.
Can you give a specific example of that video strategy that leads people to the longer form?
Yeah, we tested it out in MoneyWise semi-recently just to see, because we were wondering if what would happen is it would cannibalize the actual full-length viewers. And so we posted a clip that was about 10 minutes long from an interview episode the day before. And what we saw was that a lot of people clicked and watched that video. But then we also had a higher click-through rate than normal on the video when the full thing went live. And it could just be that was like a really good episode. We have to do more testing to see. But it ended up being for our interview videos, it's one of the best ones that we have. And we're also going to be doing some tests on different formats for those like episodettes. So right now I've just kind of pulled specific parts from the episode, kind of like the Joe Rogan style. But I do want to think about how we can semi-repurpose to make it feel like it's native to YouTube and do like kind of like micro docs from specific parts of the episodes. That's something that I'm currently working on. But then also, I mean, this isn't a new strategy. The reason that I have got so interested in it is because there's this podcast I talk about a lot, Tape Notes. And they do a full video podcast, but they only release the full video episodes on Patreon. But they do playlists of clips where the videos feel very native to YouTube on YouTube. And I think it exists as a standalone. We have a YouTube audience, but also as a top of the funnel for converting people to the full length, either audio version listeners or to Patreon and then paying for the full video version, which I have done for a few episodes. Yeah. And then there's a couple other, I mean, I did it the other day when that Dropout CEO interview I just told you about. I watched a 10-minute clip on their YouTube and then they were like, this is a full podcast if you want to hear the whole thing. I was like, oh, okay. And I went and listened to the full thing.
There's a interesting thing between media, because in audio podcasting, a very normal strategy is to republish old episodes because nobody goes back and listens to episode 20 when you have 100. YouTube works completely differently with the algorithm surfacing old videos, new videos at the same time. Have you experimented at all with like republishing video content?
We haven't done that, and that's actually recently we did a rerun for the audio side of an old episode that was like episode 8 or something, and it was a really good episode, and we needed some content for that week, so we replayed it. And I'm happy because like a lot of our new listeners would have missed that one. But for the video, we were like, well, we don't want to not publish this week. So what we did is we actually have a back catalog of episodes that weren't video. And we didn't go and like fully produce an old audio episode and make it like video, but we did clip from it. So we did that episodette thing and we created a video version of it instead. So yeah, we have not, and I don't plan on rerunning old videos unless we are like basically just turning something into video that wasn't video before. That's something that we want to do. It's just about like capacity, really.
Yeah.
But that would be great for us because we have all the back catalog and we've always been recording video just by default in the studio. It would be interesting for us to kind of double up posting episodes every week by just posting the old ones as video and then like still having them exist as the audio only. But yeah, no, I wouldn't repost a video.
You think that would break YouTube, so to speak, or is there other reasons?
It's more just because the content, it's like you said, YouTube is constantly pushing things in a way, and people's behavior on YouTube is different, where they're going to, first off, get pushed things that are old, but also go through your channel a little bit differently than podcasts where people will probably just, go through the most recent. There's some diehards that'll go all the way back to the beginning or maybe just want to find the people that they like. But it's more just like that video already exists. Right. So it's going to be pushed out and people are going to find it. And I'd rather not to say that it doesn't for audio, which is actually like, I'm questioning myself of like what I actually believe now that I'm thinking about it. But like, it just feels like, yeah, it's already there. Right. And there is like a culture of audio where you write on it, rerun or something. Right. And then you play if you did that for YouTube, like that would be so weird. I don't know. It's just not in the culture of YouTube. The video is already out there, right? I know that people do repost their old stuff, but I just like, I don't know. I wouldn't. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. It's a harder place to test those things. It seems to me, because you said the audio audience is so loyal that even if you have one complete miss, they're going to be back the next week. On YouTube, if you have one complete, like utter, subpar video, that could be really bad long term.
Yeah, well, and that's interesting that you say that too, because it actually goes both ways too. Where if you have a video that takes off really well, then YouTube will like blast that out to more people as well. But with YouTube, the audio listeners are super, super loyal. You'll see that there's more followers and like subscribers that are actually coming back every single time. That's the same reason that you see that the audio numbers are like super consistent and like slowly growing, whereas YouTube can kind of look like this. Yeah. And that's because like YouTube decides who to push it out to. And if you fail in like the first day of getting enough people to watch it and like it, then it won't push it out more. But YouTube is also, there's this thing where like, subscribers is becoming more of a vanity number.
Absolutely.
And you really are looking at the returning and new visitors when you are, new and returning viewers when you are looking at the stats. And you want to see that you're getting the returning viewers clicking on the thumbnails, but that doesn't mean that they are subscribed. Right. So and it's interesting because like because of that Jet episode that I did, there are a lot of people that are subscribed or are returning viewers to content that's like specifically with me on the thumbnail. So if they see that, they'll click on it, and you'll see that like you have like a ton of returning viewers, and then there'll be more like views or whatever than a normal episode or a different episode. And once you kind of get that success and you keep getting those people to come back, then YouTube will continue to grow that for you. But that's why those numbers are important, is because if those people are coming back, because that's what YouTube's looking for first, then it means it will push it out more. But yeah, other way around, if you don't get those returning viewers to come back and click on it, or your regular audience doesn't click through initially on the first 24 hours or so of your video, then it won't push it out to more people. So it is like, there's a pro and a con to the way that YouTube does that. That's why the opportunity for growth is so great, but also, you can have flops, whereas audio, you don't really get flops.
And so for the people who are really in the nitty gritty right now, in the YouTube studio backend, is the returning viewers like your kind of most important metric, or is there something else that you keep an eye on?
Yeah, I'm looking at it a lot. I'm also looking at click-through rate, obviously, but I would say what I'm actually looking for mostly when I'm in the back end of the YouTube studio is the AVD, the average view duration.
Okay.
And more specifically, like the first 30 seconds of how we keep people or not, regardless of if they're new and returning. But I do like to sort it to see new and returning, to see if new people are just as engaged. Returning, you typically always get like a little bit more engagement. They'll last a little longer throughout the whole retention graph. But the new people, I am looking at them as well in terms of like that first 30-second AVD graph, to see if I'm like getting the attention of people who don't trust me yet. I would say that's what I'm looking at the most, or at least like recently.
And so the other thing you said is that you get more returning viewers if you're on the thumbnail. Does that mean you're going to become more of a on-camera person?
So what's interesting about that is because, I mean, like, yes, I'll be doing more videos, but it's also just the fact that we kind of won with the algorithm for one video that I did. And so therefore it got pushed out to a lot of people, and now that gets pushed out to more people. I don't doubt that we could get the same. It's a little bit different because it's like the format, like you said, it feels more native to YouTube. So it's going to do a bit better, but I don't doubt that we would possibly be able to get the interview episodes to do the same thing if we had one that took off the same way. Because then we would have those viewers that came in who would return for that specifically, because that's what they're expecting. It's more just like if you experiment on YouTube and you do something that's a little bit different, and then you bring in a bunch of people for that, like that's what they're going to expect. So that's where you're going to see numbers coming back. So it's really, really nice to see that, but it's also like, we don't want to make the entire podcast that, especially because we know that the audio listeners do actually prefer and like value the more traditional interview format. So that's like a balance where you have to figure out how much do you want YouTube and how much do you want just like a successful podcast? Because if you start playing into what works well on YouTube, then you'll fall down I think you'll end up producing something that's not a podcast.
And if you had to prioritize one over the other, which one would you optimize for?
Depends on your goals. I think so. One of the first things that we do at our company with clients is we figure out why they want a podcast. And then we can, kind of like design the format around that to make sure that we're reaching their objectives. And we set some like, here's some KPIs, here's some things that we would like to keep an eye on to make sure that we're doing what we want for like, or what you want from this. For Hampton specifically, so for MoneyWise, their goal is just lead generation.
Sure.
Right. So if we see that there's more lead generation from YouTube, then like, yeah, we would lean into YouTube more. The thing is, YouTube does have the ability to attract a lot more people. Podcasting is a little bit more niche, and you get people who are a little bit like more intentional. And that means that it's likely, and we need to like, we're going to be doing this like long-term tracking to see and figure out like what actually makes more sense. But I think that you can get a ton of leads from YouTube, but the value also matters. Like, are they good leads? Are the people who are converting? Are the people that they want? Versus like audio might get less, like, or there might be like fewer leads, but potentially they are more suited, and like they're actually more like a higher conversion rate. Like they are better leads. So we need to we're at the stage right now where we found that if we get a crap ton of views on YouTube, we will get a lot of leads. and we're kind of trying to figure out and like measure against the two platforms together to see like which one is actually more valuable. And then that'll be the answer, is like following that. But for different, people, whatever your goals are as a podcast, if your goal is just like, I want to be a massive podcaster or whatever, then I don't know, maybe YouTube. But it just, it does put you in a different ring. Like you're competing in a different way when you start competing on YouTube. But YouTube, once you have growth, is easy to continue to grow. Whereas again, like audio is like, it's always kind of got to be intentional.
Oh, such a good answer. It's because it's never just black and white like that. So really love it. That makes me really curious about one more thing, because MoneyWise is a show for and with high net worth individuals, and you're producing that. Have you learned anything about life or business or anything from those people?
So I did a video, like one of the early ones that I did was an essay on like money and happiness, but it was more just like reporting on my take based on what people say. I think it's funny because I think my actual take is that life doesn't really change much. And so, but this is also a me problem. I don't really value money. And that sounds so privileged. And I swear it just comes from a place of, I don't even know. I just, it's a detriment to me. I don't value money that much. But it's taught me or it's just like confirmation bias. I don't know. I feel like I'm right. Like I don't, in terms of like money, I'm like, I think life is the same no matter what level you're at, in terms of it's about the people that you're around and the things that you choose to do with your time. In terms of like success, I think that there's a lot of luck always, but it really comes down to, from what I've seen for the people who have talked about their journeys. And again, like this is like survivor's bias or whatever, because we're talking to the people who made it, not the tens of thousands of founders who failed. But there is like a level of just grit. Like it's not really like, oh, I'm actually just like super smart, or I'm actually just like super talented. It's more just like, I'm just willing to keep trying. And I think that just in general, I think the more I go on in my career, the more I'm like, if somebody is willing to like just do things, take initiative and keep trying, then they're going to succeed no matter what. So I think, those are the two things. It's just like grit, and also money doesn't really change the fact that you have to be around the people that you're around and do the things that you're going to do anyway. I don't know if that's like what you're looking for in that answer, but yeah.
In this particular, I wasn't looking for anything. I'm just curious to learn from those kind of people, because that's not my world at all. So
no, yeah. So I will say they all say this, and I think that I would probably feel the same. Flying business class is something you'll never go back on. I've never flown business class, but if I could get off of because my family lives in Toronto, and like in Canada, and I live in Germany, so it's like a 7-hour flight. If I could get off that flight and not have knee pain, that would be amazing. So if money can stop my knee pain, then I value it.
It's funny you say that, because that is one of the only like stupid financial goals I have, is I just want to fly business. I don't want to.
100%. Like, and that one feels worth it.
Yes. My family's in, or we go to Florida once a year. Yes. It's a long flight, right? Yeah, about 12 hours with, changing and stuff. So, yeah. But not to get too derailed on flying and high net worth individuals. Going back to the subject of grit, when you think of somebody who has a podcast and published, 50 episodes, and they get 100 views or something, what would you tell them? What's your best advice for them? Is it grit, or is it something else?
First, with podcasting, I think the number that everybody uses, like the magic number, is like 100 episodes, when you start to see the curve kind of go up a little bit more exponentially. And that's also just because you have a back catalog. It doesn't even necessarily mean that you have more viewers. It just means that there are more listeners. It just means that like listeners have more to listen to. So there's like, keep posting. But the other thing is, you want to make sure that you are in a niche that makes sense for you. Like, I think one of the things that people do wrong is that they don't specify enough in terms of like the whole podcast theme, but also individual episode themes. Especially if you're making like a podcast that's, you are 50, 100 episodes in, if you are too broad at the beginning, you'll start repeating the same pieces of value over and over again, just by nature of, if the podcast is about this thing, there's only so many ways you could talk about that. And if you are too broad at the beginning, then you're going to lessen the amount of new ideas that you can bring into it later on. So I would say if you're thinking about longevity, just always make it as specific as possible so that everything feels fresh. But yeah, because then what happens is you'll end up where the stories start sounding the same and people won't really want to tune in, and you might see that like slow drop off. So I think that's something. I think also it's really hard to grow audio because the discoverability thing. I think that's such a buzzword. And discoverability on YouTube is like the main thing that people are talking about in podcasting, like why it's like so great to have video. I think there are a lot more benefits to being on YouTube, and also the way that discoverability works and how it works for podcasting is something that people don't discuss. They just say, oh, you can get discovered. And I think that's because that's what most people know. That's the extent of it. But if you are just doing audio, then you need to focus on other ways to grow, because an RSS feed you're not just going to hit it organically. It can happen, but it's not going to happen the same way. So you have to be more intentional about building your community, whether that's like Discord spaces or Slack or a subreddit or like, I don't know, Facebook page even. There's like, you have to be more intentional about the way that you build a community, because there isn't a community aspect built into RSS the way that there is YouTube. And that's partly because the platforms just don't have those features built in. Again, no matter how hard Spotify tries, it's not there yet, and it won't be in the near future. But and also it's fragmented. Your audience is in a bunch of different places. So you have to be more intentional about bringing that audience together. And then, yeah, there's like, you want to get into cross promotion, you want to get into newsletter circuits. There's just like more effort that goes into it. So if you're stagnating, it might be that your content is awesome, but it's just not having the opportunity to find new people.
I would love to go into the whole Spotify debate, but that is for another time.
Okay.
No, but to close things off, a question I asked all my guests is, what does success look like to you?
I've done projects in the past on YouTube and or just like outside of YouTube, just like in real life things. And by like metrics, I think that they have been successful. I've done the thing where I've got like over 1 million views, and I've done other things where I've made some money. And I think that when you lean on metrics as your way to measure success, I think that you're setting yourself up for failure, because there's not, like, numbers are just numbers. It doesn't really matter. I think for me, what I personally define my successes in life is, do I get energy from the things that I'm doing still? And as long as I'm getting energy, or getting like more energy from the things, like and by energy, I mean like, I'm excited. I feel passionate. I feel like I could sit here for 7 hours and not feel stressed, and like actually just be like too into it, which is something I do. And then like feel excited and hyper about it after. If that's the case, then I feel like I am successful. But I also think that because of that, success can go away. So it's not like something where once you've hit it, you have it. So that's why I've stopped things in the past, is because it stopped giving me like that energy, and therefore I don't think it was like successful anymore. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I feel successful in my day to day. I don't really think about it in terms of a broad life thing where am I a successful person? Because I've done things in the past. It's like every day is a different, are you successful today? That feels like a cop-out answer, and I'm really sorry. But I also just like, it's the same thing, just going back to MoneyWise too, where people are talking about the number that they need to hit to feel like they've made it. And it's like, I just think assigning things like that to money, or to numbers, is like, you're setting yourself up to be disappointed.
I really love this answer. It gives a completely different or new perspective to this whole topic. And side note, one kind of editorial video I'm working on is a bunch of creators answering this question and like actually talking about what the success looked like as a creator. Yeah. Jackie, this was such a insightful conversation. Really, really appreciate you being here. If people want to know more about you, if people want to stay in your orbit, where can people find you?
I am basically only on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn. I'll probably be like starting to post some of my own YouTube videos soon too. I feel like I'm in that mode right now where it's something I want to do. So maybe
it gives you energy.
Maybe, yeah. But LinkedIn is pretty much the only place you'll really find me online.
Awesome. And we'll put all the links down in the description. And yeah, thank you so much.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, if you're new here, my name is Valentin. This show is called Orbit for Creators. And if you're still watching, it would be awesome if you could subscribe. But if you want to be extra awesome, go share this video with a friend, because that is what we do here. We forget the algorithm and create with friends. All right, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.